got one of these stalling weather patterns, dumping a whole bunch of rain. First, I'm George. This is Fat Ninja Farm. On the farm, starting out front, down through the back, and ending in a pond in front of the tiny house down there, we've got a series of about 16 different swales. Each of these swales is an on-contour ditch that follows the in and outs of the landscape. That's level, so they fill up and they overflow down to the one below them. Each one flowing into the next one until that water absorbs into the ground below it. So it slows that water, stops it, absorbs it. We'll go over and have a look at a couple of the ponds here and see how they've caught and stored that water. All right, this is an unlined catch pond. You see the ducks swimming around in there, feeding in it. Chickens along the edge wading in. They're actually eating my banana plants. We got a banana growing out of there. There's a taro root over next to the duck. But all that water absorbed in the landscape behind it. And that's coming from the front yard, off the gutters and off the road. Being caught high in the landscape here, we have a sloped backyard with a series of swales down that. From the road in the front to the pond in the back, there's about 18 of these swales. There's ponds, even small catch ponds in most of them, some larger ones like this one we just looked at. But each of these fills up to the top, overflows into the one behind it, and on down through. When that rain stops, that water's been slowed, caught, absorbed, and stored below the surface. It rained for about the last 24 hours on a pretty good pace, on and off. But we're going to go down and look at some of the places where the water's still standing and how it's still coming out of the landscape at the bottom and into our bottom pond nice and clear, meaning there's no erosion or very little erosion. And then any of the pond doesn't hold is released out the back here in this overflow. Water is life, right? So finding ways to collect that water, to collect that energy in our landscapes. We've got quite a few videos on the swale systems here and how we built them using an A-frame level, little catch ponds to go with them, ending at this pond at the bottom. But we'll just go up through now, if the rain doesn't get too hard, and look at some of the standing water in some of these swales and see how the top ponds are full, starting to release it down to the bottom. We'll look behind me here and see how there's nice clean water coming out of the landscape into this pond, showing that we've slowed all that water within, stopped it, allowed to saturate into the landscape or overflow passively into the next swale or pond below it without getting too much momentum for being too steep. And it's starting to rain harder. Put my hood up. But here we can see the flowing water. Coming out of the ground and the wood chips here at the bottom. Doing that allows stuff like these cherry trees and that stinging nettle and this whole landscape to become so green and beautiful without us watering it, or watering it very little. If I put seedlings in the ground or transplant something, I'll water it. Other than that, I don't get out the hose very often at all. Because places like this, these swales that are all interconnecting. What are you doing out, Megan? You're supposed to be away. These fill up. The rain's settled down here for a while now, so they've saturated in, but this one and this one over here, working our way up through these. That'll feed these gooseberries. And so this side goes up through the Foodforest side. And the same thing here. You see the standing water in the bottom of this one, the raindrops hitting. These are our walkways, but there are also swales coming up through here. In the name of keeping this short, I think I'll just go up to the top. So again, we've stopped and stored it in these ponds and swales up here, high in the landscape. And any of the overflow has gone down through here. So we start at that pond over there. Everything coming from the row in this side of the house into the Foodforest side here. And this first big swale. The other side of this swale is here. The last of the standing water was there when I started taking a video earlier. So that's already absorbed into this hugel mound behind it. There's a series of those down through this side, overflowing into one another. And the same thing on this side. This overflows around that side. I believe there's still some standing water down here. This shows it real good. So in that real heavy rain, all these filled right up, overflowing into one another. Some are just little ones like this on top of the blueberries here. That's how we catch water here at Fat Ninja Farm. Catching it in these ponds, these catch ponds, these on contour level swales, letting it absorb into that landscape, being stored down out of the sun in the soil. Release back when it's needed. We don't use any water in our gardens other than we transplant seedlings or when we put seeds in. Once something has its roots down in the ground, I'm not going to say never. It's not very often that we ever break out a hose on it. It's unneeded. As you can see, this whole water lens is filled up from the top to the bottom and is releasing it back into the pond here. If this has helped, please like and share. Subscribe. I'm George. This is Fat Ninja Farm. Peace.